Yeah,
Indoctrination education.
It's
indoctrination. There you go. Well,
indoctrination. Yeah.
we have that.
For centuries, it has been understood that the United States is, because we're a nation of FU since 1776, the probability, and because of our geographic situation, the probability of the United States falling from a force from without is fairly low. But the probability of the United States falling from a force from within is actually relatively high,
Mm,
given the history of
right.
civilizations across the epochs, etc. We don't have a marching army coming in is pretty limited, but given our disposition and our orneriness, the probability of us tearing ourselves apart is pretty high. And they are fanning those flames. Dissension House divided
Yes.
cannot stand. So they take every little. If you really start talking to people, if you can disregard the political affiliation, you really start talking to people. Most people want the same outcomes. The shenanigan comes along when you start talking to people about how they see to get to those outcomes, right? So most people want peace. Most people want prosperity. Most people want everybody to live a good life. Um, most people want their kids to have a better future than them. And things get kind of weird when you start talking about how to accomplish that. But at the end of the day, big picture, most people, there are jerks in every group, but most people are genuinely relatively good people with foibles, but they generally want the same things. But there are differences primarily driven by propaganda, back to the interest of greed and power, to divide people so you can
Right.
divide and rule. Machiavellian leadership, circa 1400s, which really goes all the way back to part of the reason I included cuneiform on the coin, Sumeria. It's as long as man has existed, they've done this thing to people. And even in the theology of Sumeria, the gods' stories, one of the first stories in the tales from the gods of Sumeria is divide and rule among the gods of Sumeria. So it's a fairly old tactic, still alive and well today. And as Aaron said, a lot of the division in the nation is in a continuation of that, with the aim of dismantling the United States by foreign interests by exacerbating every micro nuance, creating micro nuance, and then exacerbating every micro nuance within the United States for the purpose of division and implosion. Yeah, the Yuri Gagarin, I don't know, not Yuri Gagarin, Yuri, what was his last name? Bezmenov, interviews from the 1980s. The Soviets have been working at this very diligently for a very long time. The Chinese are not far behind them. Um, and I would not be surprised one little bit, especially given the disclosures within the JFK files, et cetera, that some of our air quotes allies aren't in on it as well.
We took over the world economy. We took over the world currency with our dollar,
We did.
and we started running the show.
We did.
The United States in World War II was a very isolation, well, not very, very isolationist, but we were more of an isolationist state. We didn't really get involved in other people's business.
We had our bellies full in World War I and swore we'd never do it again.
Yeah. After World War II, we decided that the nation needed some stability, which it did, and nobody else was poised to do it. We realized it's like the kid in the classroom that gets, that sits in the corner and is real quiet, and all of a sudden a fight breaks out, and he just shuts everybody down. That's kind of what we did in World War II. And we realized that we had the ability to do it.
Yeah.
There was no. I mean, Russia maybe, but even then, and that was what the Cold War was about, right? Was like trying to decide who is the big bad motherfucker in the yard.
Russia did not have the global projection power at the end of World War II that we did. We were the only ones on the planet with the power of global projection that we had. And with the
No, but Russia had manufacturing.
They did have manufacturing and no recourse, no reservations about throwing every single person in the country or anywhere adjacent into the meat grinder. Did not care.
Right. Well, that's the communist thing, right? So that's what that was all about. That the communist model is the common man sacrifices for the greater whole. Even on paper, at the Marxist level, that's what communism is about.
That's what Western civilization is about. There's a difference in the value of human life.
They're not as openly honest about it, but
they will more readily sacrifice your life instead of you volunteering your own. They will sacrifice your life for you.
So that's what the Cold War was about. We wanted to, and then you have China, who they took a little bit of a hit. They've always just like I told you the other day, we were talking on offline. China's been around for 5,000 years, and they have a tendency to sit quietly in the back until it's time to strike. Their culture is one of win at all costs
Yeah.
and win whenever the time is right, right? So, like,
Patience.
you have the Cold War, and then we dismantled Russia through non-conventional means. We dismantled them through their economy. We dismantled them through their culture. We dismantled them through influence of the Eastern Bloc, and Europe, and trade. And they made a vow a long time ago to do the same to us.
And here they are.